into Let's Talk About It Media 21. I hope everyone's having a great morning. I am. Busy morning. That's why I came live a little bit later. I knew I would be a little bit late, but it's all good. We're going to get in here. We're going to do the disclaimer. We're going to talk about what's going on. Yesterday, we had covered that there was a lot of confusion stuff going on. We addressed it. Um, some of the instruction was rewritten for the jury to understand what that all meant. So we did cover that. So I thank everyone for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and do my disclaimer. So come on in, like the video as you guys come in, subscribe to the page as you guys come in. Um, and yeah, subscribe. We're trying to get to 39K by the end of the month, which we have about 3 to 4 days left. But yeah, all is well, you guys. Let's get to the disclaimer. Okay, I'm doing my setup on this side, making sure I'm good. But come on in, like the video. A lot of information we are going to have to release and get everybody caught up on what's going on. Allegedly, they were at the courthouse for a while yesterday, just trying to get everything straightened out for the jury instructions. Okay, so copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. We're going to get into what's going on, what happened in the courthouse yesterday, what's happening today. So we're going to basically cover day 30 and day 31. We always cover the day before, and we always try and cover the current day that we're on right now. So we're going to get into what's being talked about in the courtroom, how things are going, what's expected to happen over the next few days. Will a decision be made? That's the biggest question that everybody's saying. Will a decision be made by Monday or Tuesday? And we'll see. We will see. So as everyone come in, we're going to get a general update of what's going on. But thanks for being here, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great morning. We're going to listen to Inner City Press. He's the one that's been covering the trial, and he's been the one that's been texting while he's sitting in court. So let's get to what he had to say this morning.
Closing arguments, at least for the government. As it turned out yesterday, the defense arguments will be on Friday, and the jury will get the case Monday. We'll see whether they can rule by the July 4th holiday. But yesterday there was turmoil. After we did this, many people seem to not misunderstand. I blame the prosecutors, actually. The way that they wrote their letter about the charge before the charging conference, they said
I think it was the way they wrote it, and they probably loved all the confusion. They probably loved it. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Are not pursuing the theories of liability of attempted kidnapping under New York and California law, attempted arson under California law, that's the Kid Cudi car. The New York kidnapping is Capricorn Clark, of course, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. So this was not dropping charges, but some people, particularly those who are, some are saying free Diddy, so they were like, Diddy's getting free.
See?
I mean, I'm not putting in, again, the government should have explained it better. I think that they spent some sort of behind-the-scenes attempts to sort of explain to people, but they should have just written a better, I don't know, maybe they hadn't realized how it would be perceived. But I'll say that we didn't try to spin it one way or another. We just quoted exactly what I said. We are not pursuing those theories of liability. Of course, these are just predicates to the RICO charge, and as the almost non-ending charge conference yesterday went till 7:30 p.m., made clear, RICO is alive. They're going for RICO. There's 5 counts. And so that's that. Now, before we get in, because today it's going to start at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., begins the opening arguments, apparently by AUSA Slavic. Mark Agnifilo won the right to wait until Friday to start. Whether that's cutting it too close to the holiday, we'll just have to see. Judge Subramanian seemed satisfied that the defense was sort of waiving its rights to, I guess, not deliberate on July 3rd. I'm not sure what they're waiving, really. But what we can say is other things are happening in the world. They really are. Yesterday at 10:30, because it didn't start, as it turned out, until 3:45, charge conference, we went to cover U.S. versus Do Kwon, a major crypto case involving the collapse of the Luna stablecoin. And as we reported, and as other crypto publications have picked up, Judge Engelmeyer said, I take note of the Genius Act. This, of course, is passed through one house of Congress, hasn't yet been finalized, but it's...
Okay, now he's talking about something else. So let's get to what really happened in the courtroom and what's transpired. Like the videos, you guys come in. I told y'all there was a lot of confusion yesterday, and it was the way that it was written, and people were trying to say certain things was dropped, and it was just rewritten for a better explanation for the jurors.
We expected would be a total snore. Something happened that lit up the headlines, and we kind of got our answer as to whether the prosecutors have their guy. They told the judge that they're dropping a few allegations that the jury is going to have to sort through in deliberations. See if you can spot the headline in this letter that they sent to the judge. Quote, the government understands the court's desire for streamlined jury instructions. With that in mind, the government has removed instructions from the charge relating to 1, attempted kidnapping under both California and New York law, 2, attempted arson under California law, and 3, aiding and abetting sex trafficking. The government is no longer planning to proceed on these theories of liabilities, so instructions are no longer necessary, end quote. Did you see it? Did you see it? Because it sure sounds like the government has given up on a few charges. It sounds like it. But they're not. Not really.
Not really.
Because attempted kidnapping is not the same as kidnapping. And attempted arson is not the same as arson. And the way I see it, the feds aren't backing down on the more serious charges. Kidnapping and arson. They're just backing off on the attempted versions. And committing the crime is way more serious than attempting to commit the crime, especially when you're counting the predicate acts needed to prove racketeering.
Do y'all catch that? Committing is different than attempting, so that's why they reworded it. And people were saying they're dropping it. They're not dropping it. They're rewording it. And a lot of people didn't understand that yesterday. And a lot of pages got called out, so they just reworded it. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you for saying hello. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And yes, I know that your feeds were absolutely filled with the news today that the feds were dropping arson and kidnapping from their case. The government's case against Diddy was not collapsing. 6 weeks, 34 witnesses. It's not collapsing. I'm here to tell you, if someone said it was collapsing and they're dropping that stuff, that's poppycock, in the words of Colonel Potter. The feds really aren't giving an inch here, nor have any of their facts or their allegations gone away. In a RICO case, they need to prove only 2 predicate crimes over a 10-year period. Any 2 from the RICO list of like 37-ish. Arson and kidnapping are on that list, and the feds have a lot of evidence that those 2 crimes happened. For example, the alleged kidnapping of Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and the alleged kidnapping of his former assistant, Capricorn Clark. Plenty of evidence, plenty of witness testimony. They also had evidence of alleged arson on Kid Cudi's Porsche. It's for this crazy reason I called Jesse Weber this morning, and I don't know, 8 or so, woke him up. And why the 2 of us have been scratching our heads all day long. Jesse, of course, is an attorney. He's anchor for Law and Crime Network and a legal analyst here at News Nation. Everybody lost their collective minds and went bananas today. Jesse, how do you see it?
Well, first of all, the fact that you think you woke me up at 8 o'clock, shocker. I've been up at 5:30 for this case every day. No, look, you're 100% right, because when I saw the headlines, it was like, oh my gosh, the prosecution's case is weak. They're dropping arson, they're dropping kidnapping. Go back to the indictment. You're 100% right. Not only was he, yes, charged with attempted kidnapping or attempted arson, he's also charged, like you said, with arson, kidnapping, but conspiracy to commit arson, aiding and abetting arson, aiding and abetting kidnapping. These are all theories by which the jury could conclude that the prosecution fulfilled the elements of that predicate crime. And you're right, the prosecution only needs to prove 2. This is what's going on here. Racketeering conspiracy, the top charge here, potentially life in prison, is a very, very complicated charge. I've been talking about it for the last 6 weeks. People still don't even know what I'm talking about. So the jury instructions need to be as clear as possible. That's what they did. And they made it simpler for the jury to ultimately convict him of this charge. Now, I'm still 50-50 on whether or not they've proven it, but they've definitely made it easier come tomorrow, those closing arguments.
So nobody should think for a minute that kidnapping and arson have been yanked from the case against Diddy.
We will see in closing arguments tomorrow, but I would highly, highly doubt that. Why? They spend so much time focusing on it. They called Kid Cudi. They called a fire investigator. They called Capricorn Clark about allegedly being kidnapped by Sean Combs and brought to Kid Cudi's home while at gunpoint, that she was taken to this abandoned building and given lie detector tests. Kid Cudi's testimony, I will say, is some of the most compelling testimony we've heard, because he really doesn't have a dog in this fight. So to abandon that, 2 of the top predicate charges, I think would be a major mistake, and I don't see them doing it. I think they're doubling down on a charge that they've spent the majority of their case trying to prove.
Yeah, and also the Uncle Polly, part of the kidnapping allegation in that abandoned warehouse. That was all very Sopranos. One of my experts that I turned to, who's involved in a massive sex trafficking case with the Southern District of New York, said to me, "I see no other way to interpret it other than the way you have. The government will be very precise in their language. It is only the attempted portion they're walking away from because they have it actually. They can keep it simple." So, and that's just one of the experts I conferred with today. So let's talk about.
So they just reworded it, everyone. Fair use reaction clip.
All the predicate acts, because I said before, I think I counted 37. Sometimes it's different for state and federal, but there are so many potential predicate acts that they can just pick and choose from in order to get to prove racketeering. And on my list, assault, forced labor, bribery, distribution of a controlled substance, extortion, kidnapping, witness tampering, dealing in obscene matter, obstruction of justice, slavery, sex trafficking, drug trafficking. That's not even all of them. Do you think that they're going to try to highlight most or many of those, or just stick with kidnapping and arson?
5 signs. This is
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. We're trying to hit 39K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for saying hello. And like I said, he's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. A judge, jury is going to have to decide if there's any wrongdoing. Let's continue.
Or just stick with kidnapping and arson?
I think they're going to list every one of them. Why? Because they also have to establish a racketeering conspiracy that Sean Combs operated a criminal enterprise, that he used his bodyguards and assistants to engage in a pattern of illegal activity for a period of time and tried to cover it up. The more they can make the argument, the more they can convince the jury that he was essentially a mafia boss. Of course, they're going to include everything. I will tell you, there are certain underlying predicate crimes that I think are stronger than the others. Bribery, the whole testimony from Eddie Garcia, who had worked at the Intercontinental Hotel and said that he was paid $100,000 that he split with 2 other people to hand over the videotape to Sean Combs, was arguably some of the strongest testimony we've heard. If you talk about the narcotics that was found at Sean Combs' properties, and ultimately when he was arrested, if you're talking about possession, maybe with the intent to distribute, and the idea that he used drugs not only during these sexual episodes, but just had them on his person, I think they have a strong case there. Sex trafficking, we can go into that. Forced labor, the idea that you have a number of, more specifically, Mia, who was this former assistant who says that she was sexually assaulted as his assistant, that these assistants were forced to do things that went above and beyond. I think that they make a strong argument, but at the same time, the defense has done an incredible job at cross-examining these key witnesses and trying to say, even if you take everything as true, there is no racketeering conspiracy. There is no sex trafficking afoot. He's a bad guy, but he didn't commit a federal crime like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've read those instructions today, the suggestions from the government, and I thought, wow, they're nailing it, saying, hey, you don't have to have somebody who never wants to do something. They may have been paid, they may have been happy working there, and it turned bad. They may have been happily in love and happily having sex, and it turned bad. So once they get through that, I think it'll be very different for these jurors if they do have any doubts,
Well, outside real quick,
Did you have
the transportation to engage in prostitution charges are the easiest path to conviction. And by the way, it got a lot easier for the prosecution today, because now they don't have to prove that the people who were transported were prostitutes. All they have to prove is men were transported and a sex act occurred, a commercial sex act. That is a big win for the prosecution, because the defense was saying, oh, these people weren't prostitutes. Not anymore. They can't make that argument.
All right, Jesse, it's such an incredible case, just as a study, I got to have you back. Thank you for this. I appreciate it.
You got it. Good talk.
So if you're just now coming in, I'm going to replay what's been said because there was a lot of confusion yesterday. Let's clear it up. Fair use reaction clip.
I'm here to tell you, if someone said it was collapsing and they're dropping that stuff, that's poppycock, in the words of Colonel Potter. The feds really aren't giving an inch here, nor have any of their facts or their allegations gone away. In a RICO case, they need to prove only 2 predicate crimes over a 10-year period. Any 2 from the RICO list of like 37-ish. Arson and kidnapping are on that list. And the feds have a lot of evidence that those 2 crimes happened. For example, the alleged kidnapping of Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and the alleged kidnapping of his former assistant, Capricorn Clark. Plenty of evidence, plenty of witness testimony. They also had evidence of alleged arson on Kid Cudi's Porsche. It's for this crazy reason I called Jesse Weber this morning, and I don't know, 8 or so, woke him up. And why the 2 of us have been scratching our heads all day long. Jesse, of course, is an attorney. He's anchor for Law and Crime Network and a legal analyst here at News Nation. Everybody lost their collective minds and went bananas today. Jesse, how do you see it?
Well, first of all, the fact that you think you woke me up at 8 o'clock, shocker. I've been up at 5:30 for this case every day. No, look, you're 100% right, because when I saw the headlines, it was like, oh my gosh, the The prosecution's case is weak. They're dropping arson, they're dropping kidnapping. Go back to the indictment. You're 100% right. Not only was he, yes, charged with attempted kidnapping or attempted arson, he's also charged, like you said, with arson, kidnapping, but conspiracy to commit arson, aiding and abetting arson, aiding and abetting kidnapping. These are all theories by which the jury could conclude that the prosecution fulfilled the elements of that predicate crime. And you're right, the prosecution only needs to prove two. This is what's going on here. Racketeering conspiracy, the top charge here, potentially life in prison, is a very, very complicated charge. I've been talking about it for the last 6 weeks. People still don't even know what I'm talking about. So the jury instructions need to be as clear as possible. That's what they did. And they made it simpler for the jury to ultimately convict him of this charge. Now, I'm still 50-50 on whether or not they've proven it, but they've definitely made it easier come tomorrow, those closing arguments.
So nobody should think for a minute that kidnapping and arson have been yanked from the case against Diddy.
We will see in closing arguments tomorrow, but I would highly, highly doubt that. Why? They spend so much time focusing on it. They called Kid Cudi. They called a fire investigator. They called Capricorn Clark about allegedly being kidnapped by Sean Combs and brought to Kid Cudi's home while at gunpoint, that she was taken to this abandoned building and given lie detector tests. Kid Cudi's testimony, I will say, is some of the most compelling testimony we've heard because he really doesn't have a dog in this fight. So to abandon that, two of the top predicate charges, I think would be a major mistake, and I don't see them doing it. I think they're doubling down on a charge that they've spent the majority of their case trying to prove.
Yeah, and also the Uncle Paulie, part of the kidnapping allegation in that abandoned warehouse. That was all very Sopranos. One of my experts that I turned to, who's involved in a massive sex trafficking case with the Southern District of New York, said to me, "I see no other way to interpret it other than the way you have. The government will be very precise in their language. It is only the attempted portion they're walking away from because they have it actually. They can keep it simple." So, and that's just one of the experts I conferred with today. So let's talk about all the predicate acts, because I said before, I think I counted 37. Sometimes it's different for state and federal, but there are so many potential predicate acts that they can just pick and choose from in order to get to prove racketeering. And on my list, assault, forced labor, bribery, distribution of a controlled substance, extortion, kidnapping, witness tampering, dealing in obscene matter.
Like the videos, you guys come in. She's clearing up everything. She's clearing up everything. So what was spoke about and advertised yesterday, some of the pages got it wrong. They just reworded it for the jurors.
Justice, slavery, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, that's not even all of them. Do you think that they're going to try to highlight most or many of those, or just stick with kidnapping and arson?
I think they're going to list every one of them. Why? Because they also have to establish a racketeering conspiracy that Sean Combs operated a criminal enterprise, that he used his bodyguards and assistants to engage in a pattern of illegal activity for a period of time and tried to cover it up. The more they can make the argument, the more they can convince the jury that he was essentially a mafia boss, of course they're going to include everything. I will tell you, there are certain underlying predicate crimes that I think are stronger than the others. Bribery, the whole testimony from Eddie Garcia, who had worked at the Intercontinental Hotel and said that he was paid $100,000 that he split with two other people to hand over the videotape to Sean Combs, was arguably some of the strongest testimony we've heard. If you talk about the narcotics that was found at Sean Combs' properties, and ultimately when he was arrested, if you're talking about possession, maybe with the intent to distribute, and the idea that he used drugs not only during these sexual episodes, but just had them on his person, I think they have a strong case there. Sex trafficking, we can go into that. Forced labor, the idea that you have a number of, more specifically, Mia, who was this former assistant, who says that she was sexually assaulted by Sean Combs as his assistant, that these assistants were forced to do things that went above and beyond. I think that they make a strong argument, but at the same time, the defense has done an incredible job at cross-examining these key witnesses and trying to say, even if you take everything as true, there is no racketeering conspiracy. There is no sex trafficking afoot. He's a bad guy, but he didn't commit a federal crime like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've read those instructions today, the suggestions from the government, and I thought, wow, they're nailing it, saying, hey, you don't have to have somebody who knows something. They may have been paid, they may have been happy working there, and it turned bad. They may have been happily in love and happily having sex, and it turned bad. So once they get through that, I think it'll be very different for these jurors if they do have any doubts, you know.
Well, outside real quick,
Did you have
the transportation to engage in prostitution charges are the easiest path to conviction. And by the way, it got a lot easier for the prosecution today, because now they don't have to prove that the people who were transported were prostitutes. All they have to prove is men were transported and a sex act occurred, a commercial sex act. That is a big win for the prosecution. The defense was saying, oh, these people weren't prostitutes. Not anymore. They can't make that argument.
This has to be the best toy for dogs.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. They're clearing up everything, you guys. They're clearing up. So a lot of pages misstepped yesterday. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Prostitutes, not anymore.
Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification.
Make that argument.
All right, Jesse, it's such an incredible case, just as a study. I got to have you back. Thank you for this. I appreciate it.
You got it. Good talking to you, Dad.
And thanks for the early phone call too. All right, folks. You have probably heard a lot of people on social media saying that this is just an assault case. This is not a sex trafficking case. An assault where Diddy was caught red-handed on camera beating Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway. Case closed, right? But the statute of limitations has long passed to bring assault, so no case. Sex trafficking, on the other hand, is very much in play. Unless you think that women have to be handcuffed in a van and strapped to a mattress to make money for their kingpin in order to be guilty of sex trafficking, think again. The law says that kingpin doesn't even need to be paid a penny to be guilty of sex trafficking. And there's nobody who knows this more than my next guest. Thomas Fulshow is an investigative journalist and
like the video, fair use reaction clip. Please subscribe, you guys. Please hit the like button. If I can please get 100 people to please hit the like button, just double tap the screen. Double tap the screen to hit the like. So if you're watching from a phone, press 1. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Double tap the screen, or if you're watching from a tablet, press 1. Let's get the likes to 100, please. We're at 21. We've been live for 20 minutes. We're at 21 likes. Let's get the likes up. I'm bringing out a TTT and straightening things out. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Professor of sociology at City University in New York. He wrote a fantastic paper clearly outlining the difference between commercial sex trafficking and elite sex trafficking, both of them being very, very illegal. And it's a difference that could make or break the case against Diddy. Thomas, great to have you here. Thank you so much. Can you explain for any folks out there who do not believe that this is sex trafficking at all, because again, you don't have the chain to the mattress piece, can you explain what elite sex trafficking is?
Sure. So many people believe, as you said, that sex trafficking must involve somebody being coercively chained to a radiator. But in the paper, what I do is I argue, using Epstein and the case of Peter Nygard, that there's also elite sex trafficking, which can involve, and in this case, a highly wealthy individual who uses the services of other people to procure and groom victims and bring them to the head of the organization for sexual exploitation.
Yeah, and so the government said in its recommendations for the jury instructions today, please tell the jury, judge, that they need to understand that the kingpin doesn't even need to make a penny. It doesn't have to be about a financial transaction. He could just be benefiting from the sex. Is that what you think has some people hung up on why this is sex trafficking?
Yeah, because a lot of it, like if you look at Epstein, for instance, what he did was he had another business, which was he was a financial consultant to advise wealthy people on their tax situations, and that's how he earned his money. And what he would do is he would take his money that he was earning from that, and he would use it and other resources and hire people to procure, obtain, select victims, access and isolate them on his properties for his own sexual gratification, and allegedly sometimes for the sexual gratification of other people. Peter Nygard apparently did the same thing. Now, the difference with Peter Nygard is that Mr. Nygard is charged by the Southern District of New York with a RICO case in addition to sex trafficking, very similar to Mr. Combs.
Yeah. So one of the things that the government made clear today was that the victims can be paid and still be trafficked, which I thought was interesting because I think a lot of people think if you're being trafficked, you're a sex slave. So can you just sort of clear that up for, in the different cases that you've looked at, paper that you've done, how it can be that a jury needs to get their head around that a sex trafficked victim can actually be on the payroll?
Right. So a lot of times what happens is the victim vulnerability profile is very important. So in this circumstance, with Mr. Combs allegedly, and like Mr. Nygard and Mr. Epstein, they're all Misters, right? What they do is they pose as gatekeepers to opportunities like fashion, modeling, music, entertainment, acting. And so they sort of dangle that as a lure to bring people into their enterprises. But they also prey on the financially vulnerable simply because they're financially vulnerable. And so the exchange of money, that has nothing to do with whether or not you're being trafficked. Even the law recognizes that. And in some cases, the money becomes, a source of financial dependency of the victim. It's a hush money payment so that the victim doesn't disclose the abuse to the authorities or to any other people. So that's a very good overview of sort of like why the money.
Thanks for being here, everyone. Please subscribe to the page and please continue to hit the like button, you guys. Let's get the likes up to 100. Thank you. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Please double tap the screen to hit the like. Please double tap the screen to hit the like, and thank you. It lets everyone know we're live. And it helps us in the algorithm. Let's get the likes to 100. And thank you. Let's get the likes up. Thank you. I can see everyone's hitting the like. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for saying hello this morning. Let's get the likes up. We have 115. Double tap the screen, please. Double tap the screen so we can continue. I got to get them likes up. I've been live for almost 25 minutes. Let's get the likes up. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And rewards and opportunities necessarily don't matter under the law.
It's super fascinating, and I think that, after R. Kelly, and Nygaard hasn't gone to trial yet in the Southern District. He's got a couple of cases up in Canada first. And by the way, I've got a whole podcast
Good morning.
about Peter Nygaard, who happened to be Uncle Peter to me. Ugh. He wasn't my uncle, but he was my best friend's uncle, so I grew up with him. And so I was fascinated in that case, still am. And Tom Fulshow, thank you so much for this, because I think it's something more people are starting to learn about, more people are starting to understand, but not everybody. And maybe the Diddy case will help that. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Okay, folks, court gets underway tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. The government begins presenting its closing at 10. They get 4 hours.
So it started today at 9.
The defense decided that they wanted to save theirs for Friday so they wouldn't be broken up, because 4 hours and 4 hours plus a lunch break and a couple morning breaks, the day's not long enough. But we are going to have full recaps on both of the closings on our show, both Thursday and Friday, so don't miss it. Right?
So there's been a lot of stuff. That was from News Nation. There's been a lot of clarification now. There should be no confusion in regards to the instructions were just rewritten for the jurors. But of course, the media ran with it because allegedly TMZ put it that way, and then they fixed it hours later, but it had already got out and the media twisted it. So now everyone should be clear on what has happened. Fair use reaction clip. Good morning. And like I said, and I've said from day one, he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. A jury's going to have to decide if there's any wrongdoing on his side, period. Like the video. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let's get 100 people to please subscribe and turn on your notifications. Let's get to it.
Before they begin deliberations to decide if Combs is see 2 counts, multiple allegations, and possible predicate acts to find Combs.
It's an elaborate scheme that the jury will have to go through to figure out if they're going to convict Combs. And so what federal prosecutors did in a letter to the judge, and what they're doing still in the charging conference now, Eva, is pruning their case a little bit to make it as simple and direct as possible for the jury. They have plenty of ways to convict Sean Combs. The federal prosecutors are just picking out a couple of pieces in order to perhaps simplify it so they don't get bogged down.
And the prosecution laid out some options for deciding on this racketeering conspiracy charge.
Good morning.
Walk us through the different paths that they've given the jury here.
So there are 10 so-called predicate acts. The jury would have to unanimously agree that Combs and others conspired to commit 2 of them in order to find Combs guilty of racketeering conspiracy. That could be kidnapping involving his former assistant Capricorn Clark. It could be arson involving Kid Cudi and his Porsche. It could be forced labor involving his former assistant who testified under the pseudonym Mia. It could be obstruction and the attempt to buy off Mia, as alleged when one of Combs's bodyguards offered to send her a little something, ostensibly to keep her mouth shut about what she had witnessed Combs do, the violence that she said she had witnessed against Combs's ex-girlfriend. So the prosecutors still have plenty of options. They've taken out a couple of those: attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, attempted obstruction, just to make the instructions a little simpler for the jury.
Now, I know the jury wasn't in court today. What happened in the courtroom?
They're going through line by line each page of the instructions that the judge will read to the jury, because how the law is interpreted is really going to be up to the judge to explain. And neither prosecutors nor defense attorneys even want to give an inch. So they are telling the judge, we object to this.
So last night, allegedly, they were in court really late. They're trying to make the instructions very clear for the jury so there's no confusion. So people can't say after the trial is over, they'll say, oh, I was confused. They made very clear on what the instructions need to be for the jury. So there's no concerns. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
this
Like the
sentence
video.
or this clause or this phrase because they want to make it not only clear to the jury, but also perhaps favorable to their case. So the judge is making instantaneous rulings. The charge could be about 100 pages long. They're on about page 30 when I left the courtroom to come out to talk to you. So it's going to be a long process.
Oh, goodness. What's expected in these closing arguments?
Well, this is when prosecutors and defense attorneys get to summarize the case the way they see it. And I think even for prosecutors, they've laid out a rather disjointed presentation. There was Cassie here, Jane there, in between Kid Cudi and Mia, and escorts and some assistants. And this is their chance to tell the jury how they believe it all ties together to show that Sean Combs coerced women into these sexual marathon performances with male escorts and used his employees, his bodyguards, his assistants to help him set up all these encounters and to conceal them from the public. It will be their clearest opportunity to lay it out for the jury in a way they can understand. And for the defense, it's to say, that's not how this went, that these women were willing participants, not coerced participants, and that Sean Combs did not run the kind of sprawling criminal conspiracy as alleged.
Good morning.
Aaron Katursky, as always, thank you so much. Let's break down what this all means for the case with ABC News legal contributor and trial attorney Brian Buckmeyer.
So now he's going to do a breakdown, everybody. Pay attention. Fair use reaction clip. Let's go.
Okay, we have to talk about this racketeering charge because I think, Aaron mentioned it's very complicated and it feels even more complicated after what we learned today. So sort of walk us through this.
So let's see if I can try to simplify, because a lot of people are reporting about the charges they took off. These are some of the underlying predicate acts. We're talking about attempted arson, attempted kidnapping, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. That doesn't mean they're not going to talk about the arson when it comes to Kid Cudi. It doesn't mean they're not going to talk about the kidnapping when it comes to Capricorn Clerk. It's simply that, do you believe it happened or not? There's no, did he attempt to commit the arson? Did he attempt to do the kidnapping? It's a yes or no question, nothing about attempt. And it's because Judge Supermanian asked him to streamline this case for the jury because it was so complicated. Now, when it comes to racketeering conspiracy, it's about two predicates.
Now, it shouldn't have been complicated if the prints were there. It wouldn't have been complicated if that police officer would have pulled over Diddy. He ran his plates. Well, why would you pull him over? He didn't want to. What happened to the prints that Kid Cudi turned over to the police? They're gone. The police should have did a great job getting all the prints that were needed. And then allegedly the prints in regards to the cocktail situation, it was a woman. What about all the video of Kid Cudi's home? What about the neighbors catching cameras? It was a half job because that's what they wanted. When he ran those plates, he should have pulled him over and asked questions. Hey, there's a report that there's something going on with Kid Cudi's house. Do you know anything about it? The police chose not to pull him over. He ran his plate, but didn't pull him over. Where'd they do that at? If they had stated that there was a concern with Kid Cudi's house, why would you not pull that man over if he's lurking by his house, near his house? And then allegedly, he went inside of Kid Cudi's house and remove wrapping for his holiday gifts. How you gonna get in my crib and start unwrapping my gifts? Because he wanted to allegedly see what gift he may be given to his family or Cassie. So sad. And the biggest thing, that's how it's played. There's a lot of stuff that's brushed under the rug. Real talk. There's a lot of stuff that they did not complete because some of the police officers didn't want to, or there's concerns because he allegedly gets away with a lot of stuff in the industry, in the streets. And he has a lot of alleged handlers. So why would the cocktail have a different print? Where's the cameras that caught it? Who put out the fire? You know what I'm saying? Where's the cameras of who threw that cocktail in Kid Cudi's car? Come on. They did not do a proper job catching the neighbors' cameras, catching Kid Cudi's camera before it happened. So that's the concern. And then the prints. Of course, he's not going to throw it. Of course, it's going to be different prints. But if he's in the car, that is a concern. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. And remember how they said he was lurking over there. That's how the police got the plates. Let's continue. Fair use. So some of the evidence, and in some big cases, some of the evidence is always missing to help the person. Fair use reaction clip.
Acts plus the criminal enterprise. But this is the thing that I think that a lot of people don't understand yet. Do you believe it's bribery and arson? Do I believe it's sex trafficking and forced labor? Well, so long as we both agree that it's a criminal enterprise, Sean Combs can be convicted of that. We don't have to agree to the same predicate acts, and that's what's going to work in this case.
So each of the jurors could have two predicate acts if they believe they don't have to all unanimously agree on the same two.
Yes.
Okay, so what does this mean as far as like sentencing goes?
So when it comes to sentencing, we have 5 charges, 3 unique ones. The racketeering conspiracy, we're talking about a minimum of 15 years to life. That's the big one, right? Sex trafficking, because he's accused of sex trafficking someone who was not a minor, meant maximum of 20 years each, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And that is associated with the sex trafficking, 1 count for Jane, 1 count for Cassie. And with the sex trafficking, there's an either or there. You could be talking about the transportation to engage in prostitution as to Cassie, or Jane, or to any one of the number of sex workers that are accused of going to Atlanta, to New York, to LA, to New York, to wherever it may have been, so long as they're crossing state lines.
Okay, so whenever the jury comes to their decision, whatever that decision will be, they're going to fill out a verdict sheet. Walk us through what...
So now we're about to hear what's going to happen with the jurors. Like the video, like the video. He's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. A judge jury is going to have to decide if there's any wrongdoing, period. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let me know in the comments how you feel, guilty or not guilty. Let me know in the comments as we continue to listen. Please don't forget to subscribe. We got about 128 in the building. Please subscribe and thank you.
A verdict sheet is and what they're going to have to do here.
So right now, we don't have a final verdict sheet, as Aaron talked about. It's one of the things that they're trying to hammer out. But we've seen 2 different proposed versions. And the way that the government has done it is probably the more interesting.
They probably have that verdict sheet today, though. They tried to do everything yesterday. So this was about 15 hours ago from ABC. They should have that verdict sheet today.
It starts off with count 1. Do you believe that Sean Combs committed the act of count 1, that racketeering conspiracy? And if you do, then they start walking you down and they say any one of A through K. So 11 different variations of, do you believe that it was this predicate act or this predicate act or this predicate act? And K is very interesting because it talks about sex trafficking and asks specifically, do you believe it was Cassie who was sex trafficked or Jane that was sex trafficked? And then for the final 4 counts, it's just a simple matter of yes or no. Do you believe that Sean Combs is yes, guilty of this being sex trafficking, or no, not guilty of it? And then walking through the rest. It'll be very simple like that.
Okay, now the judge has said that he is waiting to make a decision on Combs' request to toss this case. Is this normal? Does this mean something?
So this Rule 29 motion for a judgment of acquittal happens.
So the Rule 29, they're going to talk about that. And remember, Diddy's lawyers kept asking for a mistrial. So let's hear what he has to say about Rule 29.
After the government has presented their case, and the defense makes the argument that even in the light most favorable to the prosecution hasn't made out their case. And it's very normal for a judge to observe this, because a big tenet of the criminal justice system is to be judged by a jury of your peers. And so the judge will see whether or not the jury has come to an even higher bar of finding Combs guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they do, there's no issue as to this Rule 29, he'll go forward. He's just holding it off to let the jury decide, not him.
All right, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you so much for breaking that all down for us today. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges that he's facing. He's looking at a potential life sentence if convicted on all counts, but prison might not be the only thing Diddy has to worry about if the jury doesn't rule in his favor. The government might try to seize some of Combs' assets as well. And joining me now is someone who can help us understand all of this. Stephen Kessler is an attorney based outside of New York City. He's lectured about forfeiture across the country. Steve, thank you so much for being here. I know you've read the indictment against Sean Combs. If convicted, what does he stand to lose here?
That's a good question. What does he stand to lose? Let's listen. Fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Let's get the likes to 100. Please double tap the screen, you guys. Thank you. Support the channel. Super chats are welcome. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Thank you for having me about it. He stands to lose a lot, but I have to go back to what Brian said. It depends on the charge or charges for which he is convicted. So if he is convicted on the indictment, then forfeiture is broken into 2 primary categories. The government can seek the proceeds of the criminal activity, and the government can seek the instrumentalities of the criminal activity. So proceeds are easy, right? So typically we have a situation of a bank robbery, and the proceeds of the crime are the cash that was taken out of the bank. It doesn't seem like there's much of a proceeds argument here, but there could very well be pieces that I'm not completely up to speed on. But the more likely in this situation, and when you come to RICO, and that's why I think RICO has been charged, when you come to RICO, you get a situation where the government is going after the instrumentalities of the crime. And here, to prove the instrumentalities of the crime, the government will have to show that certain assets were used to assist in the commission of the crime. And that is a very broad thing to show. The government can show that they were his homes, that they were his planes, that they're cars to use to transport the girls over state lines. All of that, in addition to assets themselves, would be subject to forfeiture. And one last thing is that if the government can't track any of those assets, which I don't think will be an issue in this case, but if they can't, they can also get a forfeiture money judgment, which totals the amount that all of those assets combine to equal.
I'm curious, is there anything that Combs can do to prevent his assets from being seized?
That he hasn't already done as far as defending himself in the case? Yes. Forfeiture is part of the sentencing. So if and when there is a conviction in this case, then we deal with the issues of forfeiture, and the defense is entitled to a hearing. It is like a mini trial. The defense is entitled to present witnesses, to have discovery, you are in front of the same judge, but you can present own case as far as the assets are concerned.
Stephen Kessler, thank you so much for joining us and for explaining that all. The jury will soon get the...
Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before and where you're watching from. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's continue fair use reaction clip.
Case in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Our legal experts will break down the strongest and weakest moments from this trial when we return.
Been taken to add those information in terms of instructions on what is attempted and what does it mean to come dangerously
Good
close
morning.
to that, when here it's like it either happened or it didn't happen.
Okay, Brian, strongest moment.
I think the strongest moment that we're seeing here is how the defense is getting them to narrow in and zero in on what the issue is. I think for the most part, they're going to make arguments about the predicate acts, but I think they're really going to focus on whether or not this was a racketeering conspiracy, whether or not there was a meeting of the mind. And I think Alexandra Shapiro's arguments were probably the best and strongest preview of what those arguments were, in the sense of, if this is supposed to be a conspiracy with Sean Combs and his inner circle, and we kept hearing about KK, Christina Coro, or D-Rock, but there were instances where these people were not on the same page. It seemed almost like they were in completely different enterprises altogether. Then how could that be the meeting of the mind? How can that be the agreement? Because I think for the most part, Bernardo makes strong arguments in terms of the arson and the kidnapping and the bribery. And I think he's going to say, you know what? Yeah, those probably happened, but these are separate individual criminal acts, not connected by one. I think that's the heart of their case, and I think they do have some decent arguments there that at least one or two people are coming on to.
So the problem with that is that the judge is going, actually the prosecution before we left court today was fighting for the judge to give an instruction and to say that all the parties within the conspiracy does not have to know each and every detail of every crime. So if that is an instruction the judge does give to this jury, then it makes it easier for the government to actually argue that there was a criminal conspiracy, that there was an actual agreement.
She's always got something coming back.
Yeah, they actually have to know that enterprise exists. And so, yeah, they don't know about the arson, they don't know about this, but is there actually a meeting of the mind that we are all trafficking these women?
Good morning, UK. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate everyone for being here. Yeah, there's a lot of concerns in regards to getting proof of stuff. People calling the police, people going to the hospital, people drop the ball in regards to a lot of things as well. And then in regards to the Kid Cudi situation, Kid Cudi shouldn't have had to turn in prints and then they lose the prints. Where's the cameras in regards to what happened to his car? Good morning, Paris. Everyone say good morning to Paris. Hello, how are you? I hope all is well. I hope all is well. I hope you're having a great morning. So yeah, a lot of people dropped the ball. This case, the concerns, how many times some of these people that took the stand met with people to talk about their case and them taking the stand. Some people did extremely well on the stand. Some people got caught up on the stand. And then, like I said yesterday, just allowing people just to say yes or no. In certain situations, you need to elaborate what happened, what transpired. So yesterday, people trying to state that things were dropped, they just rewrote it in a way that the jury will understand. A lot of the charges are still there. A lot of the charges are still there. How they rewrote it, people tried to twist it and say it's not there. It was rewritten. And if you look at the chart in regards to what his charges are, you'll understand how they took certain words off and put it in a certain way. Yeah, good morning, UK. Good morning. Yes, everyone's saying yes. Say good morning to Paris. Yeah, so there was a lot of confusion yesterday. That's why I came live. I was exhausted. I had just told my boo, my babe, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm going to lay down. I'm going to relax for about an hour or two. And then here I am. I'm pulling up videos and say, yep, that's what I need to talk about. My people need to understand there's so much confusion going on. And that's the biggest thing, that the judge wanted to make sure the juries understand what the alleged comments were in regards to what Kid Cudi experienced. Certain things can't be rewritten. But you got to understand that the jurors are going to get the transcripts. So if they need to look up something, they're going to be able to look it up and understand, well, why was the prints that he turned in missing? Why, if Kid Cudi had cameras, why is the cameras not showing the car situation, the person taking the cocktail out? Why is the prints different? Why are we not seeing if allegedly he opened, and then you got to remember, you guys, there's messages saying what he was planning to do. So the information is still there. That can't be erased. You know, the young girl saying she had to get in the car with him, and then she was trying to reach Kid Cudi. You know, he's angry that you're dating Cassie. Don't go home. And then he was at his crib opening his gifts. There are messages still out there, you guys. So you can't remove something if there's messages that are there in regards to what Kid Cudi experienced. You know? So other pages was trying to do clickbait, and I came on to clear everything up. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
We're all concealing the crimes to do so. That still is at the heart of the case.
Bernardo's strongest moment for the prosecution?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go back to that Intercontinental Hotel video. And the reason I go back to that is that we have to be all brutally honest. We would not be here today if that video was not shown to the world.
Facts.
We would not. I think with the filing of the lawsuit, yes, it opened the eyes to the Southern District, and they started doing some poking around and doing the interviews and stuff. But it wasn't until that video dropped that it's like the Southern District was like, we need to do something. And aside from that, it was huge corroboration. So it's no longer a he say, she say, it's a money grab. This puts everything into a different light. That one, there was abuse. Two, there was a freak off that was happening that day. Three, that there was a male escort that was there. Four, that Sean Combs attempted, actually did bribe the security guard in order to get that footage and paid $100,000.
Could you imagine if that video was released years ago? He did everything he could to get that video. And could you imagine him waking up and then he sees the video and everybody's talking about it? Fair use reaction clip. What happened to Cassie in that hallway should have never happened, period. Fair use reaction clip.
And shows the means that he was willing to go in order to get what he wants, including the testimony of going to like the friend's house and trying to grab her, and the multiple calls, and you had the physical, you saw the injuries on her face, and how Cassie never fought back. And that is crucial and a strong piece of evidence, because you have her just taking the hits. And this is something that now every time that she stated that she was abused or felt that she was scared, you have the fallback of looking at this video and say, it happened.
So we don't have a lot of time, but really quickly, weakest moment for both sides.
Oof.
You want to start, right?
No, I mean, I think it was calling Bonner to the stand. I would say for the prosecution, well, Bonner was even worse. I think Bonner was even worse. Bonner on the stand, because she just came off as so incredible, and I'm talking for the prosecution too, that she was not credible, and also that she was caught in that aha moment that didn't happen because Sean Combs was not even there, and it wasn't even worth. It wasn't worth the juice.
There were two moments, I think, both metaphorically and actually sometimes physically. The defense put their hands in their face and their hands. Sorry, and it was when the stylist said, "Yeah, I did commit crimes on behalf of Sean Combs," and then again when AUSA Comey came up after Tenny Garrico said, "Well, Sean Combs reimburse the enterprise for the travel of these people," and say, well, didn't she just admit to transportation to engage in prostitution for Sean Combs actually paying for these things? Those were low moments in the defense's case.
Thank you both for being here with us today. Coming up, Sean Diddy Combs, no stranger to legal trouble. We'll take a look at the music mogul's legal track record. That's next.
Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, he's had a history, and it's interesting. Like I said before, you guys, he should have been more so focusing on the music industry, but instead, he's having assistants go get stuff, street stuff, subscribe stuff, which is concerning. A lot of people have bosses. How would you feel if your boss asked you to go get stuff? And a prescription that's not subscribed to him is under an alias name. So he broke a lot of HR laws, period, union laws. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Justin, let's start with you. And that deadly stampede in 1991 at a college basketball games that Combs promoted. Tell us about this.
So this was a charity basketball game that was promoted, as you said, by Combs and the late Heavy D. It was a couple of days after Christmas in 1991. It was wildly publicized around Harlem. Celebrities like Run DMC, Jodeci sat courtside. So as you can imagine, the event was over capacity, and this led to a stampede and 9 people dying. The press in New York blasted Combs. This was really his first introduction to the big New York press circuit, and reportedly he went on suicide watch due to the stress of the event.
Allegedly.
So there were no criminal legal ramifications here for Sean Combs, but there were some civil lawsuits that were settled after the fact. We don't have all the details in terms of how much he ended up paying overall, but you would imagine that this would be a multi-million-dollar settlement between the different individuals and the estates. As Justin said, 9 individuals or 9 people were killed. Their estates would have sued on their behalf, and anyone else who was injured as well.
Okay, Justin, we also have to talk about that shooting at a Manhattan nightclub in 1999. This one made a lot of headlines at the time.
And that should have ended a lot of stuff there. Why weren't you more prepared in regards to the crowds? There's another person that's very famous. They had a huge crowd situation. Was that Kai Cenat? I think so. Was it Kai? That he had some kind of giveaway. And even with Beyonce, she has to be careful when she goes to different events and crowds. And even Kanye, he has to be careful. Some of these celebrities really have to be careful when they're out and about. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Yeah, so by the turn of the century, the biggest artist on Bad Boy Records was Sean. And if you remember this event in particular, this was the night that Bad Boy's entourage went to Club New York, led by Diddy, his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, and Sean. And I'm sure Brian will get into the particulars, but there was an argument in the club and bullets started flying. And ultimately, Sean served the better part of a decade in prison. Meanwhile, Diddy was acquitted of his charges.
And Brian, what happened here?
And that's the other crazy part. The lady said she allegedly saw who injured her. And she's did many interviews in regards to who injured her. So allegedly, there's been concerns in getting away with stuff for years. Allegedly, fair use reaction clip.
Legally for Diddy.
So Sean Combs was initially charged with a crime of discharging a firearm in that nightclub. There were allegations that even after he had driven off with Jennifer Lopez, that a gun was found within that vehicle. So also possession as well. Those are some serious allegations and charges. But ultimately, as Justin pointed out, it was Shine who was convicted of the crime, and Sean Combs was acquitted. But to kind of tie the knot here, though, although he's acquitted of that charge, since we're talking about his federal case, that could still come up if Sean Combs is convicted of this crime, even though he was acquitted of it, and it could go towards his sentencing guidelines, potentially increasing the minimums that he could face in prison.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Justin, in 1999, Combs was arrested after allegedly attacking a music executive. Walk us through this incident.
So this was the infamous attack on music executive Steve Stout. He was known for working with the rapper Nas, and Nas and Diddy had a hit in 1999, which was called "Hate Me Now." And in the video, Combs was nailed to a cross, a la Jesus Christ. Combs has a change of heart reportedly, and once that's taken out of the video, Stout basically tells him, "No, we've already paid for it, and we've already filmed it." And reportedly from there, Diddy and 2 of his bodyguards attacked Stout in his office.
Brian, did this go to trial?
No, so the allegations there stem from what's called an assault charge, right? And that would be a criminal offense. But ultimately, Sean Combs took a plea deal to harassment. Now, harassment is a violation, not a crime, would not give a person a criminal record. But that still, as his arrest or his rap sheet might show, that he was initially arrested on a crime and was given a plea deal in some sense and was able to plead guilty to a lesser charge, that being a violation of a harassment.
All right, last question for you here, Justin. It doesn't seem like these legal troubles really affected his success. Do you think this is going to impact his legacy?
So it's funny you ask that, because there's always been this angel and devil-like duality with Combs. On one hand, he's the music mogul who's created classic music, created classic albums, given us classic moments in pop culture. But on the other hand, like, he's always been this guy where trouble has followed him, as this segment has showed. So when you look at this trial, when you look at this case, that's why it's so fascinating, because he's either going to, for once, be held accountable for his alleged actions, or once again, he's going to find himself on the sunny side of a verdict, even if his image is forever tainted with the details and the proceedings of this trial.
Justin, Brian, thank you, bud.
So that's a great breakdown, because some of us, I have forgot about certain things that's happened over the years regarding him. So you got to realize he's had other charges regarding him. So it's not like, you know, how they say, oh, you've never really gotten in trouble, this is your first concern. So let's get to this fair use reaction clip. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for being here.
And then we'll get to our all-star panel. So here are a couple of updates from the court. And this is Christy Slavic, by the way, who is one of the...
Law crimes. This is law crime. Let's continue. Fair use. This is what's happening, I want to say, about 40 minutes ago. Fair use reaction clip.
prosecutors who's presenting the closings. So she's saying, consider two moments. March 2016, at the Intercontinental Hotel, the defendant got violent with Cassie. You saw what happened. He dragged her back to the freak-off. 2024 at Jane's house, the defendant choked and hit her. She ran away, couldn't get away. These are chapters in the same book. The defendant counted on silence and shame. He thought that his fame and wealth and power put him above the law. Over the last 7 weeks, you've heard how he used his staff to promote his power. No one could stop him. We'll talk about RICO, including sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution, which are also separately charged as standalone crimes. You may have heard of racketeers. When someone commits a crime as part of a group, they are more dangerous. A group of people whose purpose was to serve and protect the defendant. It's his kingdom. Everyone was there to serve him, fulfilling all of his desires, including his sexual desires. We need to show at least 2 racketeering crimes. So that's where we're at as of now. The updates coming to the courtroom. We have our amazing panel of producers, Jordan, Alex, Nick, who are all helping out, and Bailey and Nicole. Hi, guys, you're doing the best you can, and great. And I want to bring on our all-star guests that we have. We have Serena Townsend, former sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, and Mauricio Padilla, criminal defense attorney. Hi, guys. Thanks for bearing with us today and sticking with us. And Mauricio, I want to ask you about what we were just talking about with racketeering. The fact that there are no co-defendants with Diddy, it's kind of hard for even me to understand. Can you explain that?
Yeah, why isn't there any co-defendants? Will allegedly some of the co-defendants have charges at a later date? That's what everyone's been wondering. Fair use reaction clip.
I've never seen anybody stand trial for RICO by themselves. And I know that we've talked about this before, like Dave Chappelle made a joke about it. You know, he's like, you know, this guy's standing trial for RICO by himself. And it's something that the defense is definitely going to hammer home. This is not a normal RICO case by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that he's there by himself, the fact that they're talking conspiracy, but there are no co-conspirators sitting at the table with him, the fact that we're talking about baby oil and orgies and not kilos of cocaine, that's something that you have to emphasize for the jury. The defense is going to say, this is about the federal government being upset at P. Diddy and trying to make him into a villain, a RICO case where it's actually just a domestic violence case and a guy that had very unsavory and perverted fetishes. That's pretty much going to be, you know, their defense in a nutshell, as I anticipate.
And my question mark for you, Serena, about all of that is we've talked a lot on this live stream in past episodes of my show Scandal, which, by the way, you guys can subscribe if you like what you're seeing. We've talked about this, the fact that, okay, maybe Diddy's sex life is different than what you or I or whoever does. We've got the 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, and he's a little different. But is that a crime? And I think that's one of the questions I'm wondering if you think the defense is going to bring up. Maybe he's odd to you, but it doesn't mean it's illegal. What do you think?
Absolutely. I do think so. I think that they're going to say, listen, they're trying to paint him as just a bad guy. They are going to throw all of these unsavory, kinky, weird things at you to just turn you off because they think that you can't handle that. They think that you think that that's a crime, and it is not. They have to prove I would say to the jury, the law is very, very technical, because it is. And if they cannot prove that he actually committed specific crimes that fall into the elements of what they've charged, he is not guilty. And yeah, these freak-offs are weird and they're strange, and it might not be something that you would want to participate in, but look at the text messages from the participants who took the stand. They were eager to participate. They went and bought outfits. They went and procured other people to participate. Now, in that sense, it is a little bit strategically nerve-wracking, because you might then be admitting to other things like sex trafficking. And I do think the defense has to worry about those other counts. But the RICO count, I do think, is very much in play here, and the defense can double down on the fact that they're just trying to paint him as a weirdo. He's not a criminal.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Please subscribe, you guys. We're trying to get to 39K. There's about 110 in the building. Please subscribe. Please subscribe, and thank you. Fair use reaction clip.
He's not a criminal.
All roads are leading back to RICO, including one of our viewer questions that I have to bring up, which, by the way, if you guys have questions, write them in the chat and we will pick them out and talk about them. This is going to be a question for you, Mauricio, and it's from one of our viewers, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Abilisha Derwal. I believe I pronounced that correctly, and I'm sorry if I didn't. They ask, what do people think will be the 2 RICO crimes that will prove his guilt? So what do you think, Mauricio? I mean, we heard, a lot of testimony on the government side of things. That could be a different question. But what are you thinking are the 2 incidents that would really hit that home?
I mean, I think that they have them on the procuring sex workers and having them transported from state to state. There's been a lot of testimony about, different people, doing it for him, or that they brought, 3 guys in one night to have sex with his girlfriend, and all these guys are flying around. And I think the government did a good job at bringing in the airline tickets, showing who paid for the airline tickets, and that's I think something that P. Diddy had been doing for so long.
that he never even occurred to him that this was illegal. So I think that there's plenty of evidence that he was doing that. And then also they're going to have him with transporting drugs from state to state for the purposes of these freak-offs, which is another predicate crime. And I think that they had his former assistant testifying and other people testifying, including Jane, that would take place. So from the evidence that I've heard, I think they got him on at least those two.
You know, it's so wild that now we're at the finish line because we've had 6 weeks of the government going through and having all of this evidence presented. I mean, we've talked about the freak-off videos. By now, you guys have seen the actual photos of the lube and the Johnson & Johnson baby oil, the brand loyalty that was featured in all of this in these exhibits. And now we're at the closings. We're at the finish line, so we're hearing them kind of tie a bow on everything. And I do have an update for that for you as well. Here's right now the closing argument. Slavic says, this is to the jurors. The defendant was the head of the Combs enterprise. There was an inner circle, his chief of staff and his bodyguards. The names changed, but the rules remained the same. You've heard about KK, Combs' right brain. She lived in Two Star, and when they say Two Star, they're talking about Miami, Star Island. She communicated with the defendant's girlfriends, his security. You heard names: D-Rock, Bonds, Rube, Uncle Polly, Fahim. They were armed and ready. Remember the incident at the diner with Suge Knight? David James told you Combs had guns. In the search, law enforcement found guns, including a rifle with a serial number defaced in LA, 2 AR-15s with their serial numbers cut out in the defendant's closet. You also have rotating cast of assistants paid by the defendant's business. Brendan Paul, for example, one of the recent people who testified, said he made $100,000 a year. KK made 6 times that. When your boss asks you to buy drugs, you're committing a crime. When you kidnap someone or locked his girlfriend in a hotel room after your boss stomped on his face, it's a crime. And there's another really important thing. One of my producers sent me a
Facts. She breaking it down good. This is law crimes, you guys. Fair use reaction clip.
Line from closing. The defendant was at the top of this enterprise. Remember, it's his kingdom. Everyone was there to serve him. And I know that this is something that we talked about a lot, the fact that it's only Diddy and he doesn't have any co-conspirators who are charged in relation to this. As of now, we kind of inferred potentially KK maybe down the line, who's to say, but it's all about Diddy. And I want to talk about our poll too. This is our the question that was written. How closely have you been following the case? Some people say 65% very closely, not very closely, 22%, not at all, 11%. And to those not at all, welcome. We're here to talk about it and break everything down. I want to go back to Serena Townsend and ask about all of this. I know that Serena has been following this case, honestly, probably before the indictment even came down. We saw those civil lawsuits, and that's actually what I want to talk to you about, Serena, is the civil lawsuit. The one, in my opinion, and I assume yours, that started it all. That was Cassie Ventura, who filed the first of many back in November of 2023 under the New York Survivors Act, the Adult Survivors Act, rather. So can you talk to me about the civil suits? Where does everything stand now?
Yeah.
Good question, because me and you were just talking about that, Paris. So let's listen to what they have to say about the civil suits. Fair use reaction clip.
Well, the civil suit is, going to benefit greatly from a guilty verdict in this case. I think it's a wonderful strategy, even if she didn't mean for it to be a strategy. It will be a wonderful strategy for her to use if there's a guilty verdict having to do with anything that P. Diddy did to her. Because the standard of proof in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very, very high, it's the highest level of proof you'd have to show. It's basically like the government has to prove 99% that this happened in this way by this person. And a civil suit only has to be proven by a preponderance of the evidence, which basically is 51%. It's a more likely than not standard. And so routinely, when people want to pursue civil suits, the criminal case happens and then the civil case can get, found in a person's favor if there's a guilty plea. Now, in this case, Cassie has already been found, has already succeeded in her civil case. It's very strange and different when it goes in that direction. Usually the strategy is get the guilty verdict and then get a civil payout. So for her, I think it makes her look very good and very credible because she's already gotten that result. It's not like the decision in this criminal case will help her. So she doesn't have, the prosecution can't use her as an interested witness in that way in their closing argument. They can't say to a jury, look, the only reason Cassie is saying all of these things is because a guilty verdict will help her civil case. So she's very clean on that front as a witness.
Yeah.
So it's just a very interesting dynamic to see how this thing played out differently than a lot of other cases.
I agree. And I mean, we heard lengthy witness testimony from Cassie at the start. She was the star witness. Before this trial even began, she was going to be the star witness. And it turned out it was true. However, Cassie with her civil lawsuits, and then there were many that followed suit. Surprisingly, even some people, I guess not surprisingly, I don't know, you make the determination. Other people listed Cassie in their lawsuits and said, because of Cassie's bravery, I felt comfortable coming forward. And we've done other episodes on this on Scandal, my channel, where we talked about, okay, how many suits are against P. Diddy? And there's upwards of, I think, 50 civil suits that were filed at one time, which leads me to my next question, Mauricio. If there are that many people who are making these allegations against P. Diddy, Cassie being one of them, then of course Jane and Mia, why don't we hear more witness testimony from the government, some of these people who had already filed civil suits against him?
Facts. Remember, we were just talking about that, Paris. We wanted to hear about allegedly some of the allegation with the civil suits. And we really didn't hear a lot of that, which was interesting. We didn't hear from Stevie J. We didn't hear from Young Miami. We didn't hear from his other friends. I'll be general today. But yeah, we didn't hear from a lot of them. What did you see? And then allegedly we would see on Instagram, on Google, he had events. He had big parties for years. For years. He even talks about the regular party, then the after party. He talks about it. And then remember, after Cassie's lawsuit, there was video after video after video. He didn't make himself look good. Real talk. He was saying stuff on different shows and making different comments. And here's Cassie under a blanket and he's telling her to get up. He made himself not look great. You know, so the civil stuff, we'll see what happens. It helps allege. They're saying it helps if he gets a guilty verdict. If he doesn't get a guilty verdict, we don't know. We'll have to see what happens in regards to those civil lawsuits. But hopefully, if there is civil lawsuits, they got police reports, they got doctor's records, and they have notes of what happened and what transpired. If they don't have that, baby, you can see his lawyers are not playing. He has decent lawyers, real talk. He does. He's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Because the government doesn't want to water down, their witness list with people that, number one, have a financial reason to get involved. And those are people that their credibility can be challenged immediately with questioning, like, you're actually suing, DIDDY, and there's actually a financial motivation for you to be here. The government probably felt that they didn't need to go that route, and they probably felt that they were better off with the witnesses that they brought forward. I mean, the fact that he has, I heard it was more like 70 civil lawsuits. The fact that he's got that amount.
This is the quickest way to clear
Fair
out
use
stuff.
reaction clip. If there's 70, that's still a lot. That's still a lot of lawsuits. And Cassie was fortunate for hers to be settled. Fair use reaction clip. And then it allowed other people to speak up and speak out. Continue to hit the like button, you guys. Please hit the like button. Let's get to 100. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Just double tap that screen, please. Let's continue. Fair use.
Civil lawsuits. The fact that he's got that amount of voluminous civil lawsuits is something that affects him greatly, because people are looking at it and they're going to say, okay, well, you know what? What if half of them are fictitious, but half of them are real? It's something that hurts his credibility. And listen, jurors, just like everybody else, they're not supposed to be looking at the news. They're not supposed to be doing their outside research, but it's just a fact that they do. So anything that's out there in social media, anything that's out there in the news that hurts your client, a jury could look at it, and it's not beneficial for him at all.
You're right, jurors. Those are the ones who we really should be talking about today, right? Because they're the ones who are going to decide what happens. I'm so eager to see. And I have another update for you guys from court. This is happening right now. As we talked about, those of you who are just tuning in right now, the government is presenting its closing arguments right now. So these are some updates. The law does not require us to know that they liked committing these crimes. You saw KK chiding the defendant to not be so reckless. But she got him cash, drugs. She was a member of the enterprise. It impacted interstate commerce. Minimal is fine. Combs knowingly became a member. He was the boss. He was the through line. The racketeering acts, distribution of drugs, kidnapping, arson, bribery, facilitating sex trafficking of Cassie and Jane, forced labor, travel for commercial sex, cover-up. You only need to find that someone would commit 2 acts in any of these categories. It could be 2 acts of drug distribution, 1 kidnapping, just 2. You have far more than 2. Let's start with the drugs, an essential ingredient of freak-offs. The most involved were D-Rock, KK, and Fahim, but others helped keep the drug supply high. We're not talking about marijuana, but what Brendan Paul called hard drugs. There are stipulations of the drugs found in the searches: cocaine, meth, oxy, ketamine, and dissociative drug, GHB, mushrooms, Molly, 2C, a combination type pink. It's 1305 and 1306. The quantities are not relevant. It's an element of this crime. Distribution does not require a sale. So that's what's going on right now in the courtroom behind me, which, by the way, for those of you guys just tuning in, we're live in Lower Manhattan outside of the courthouse. So that's why my hair is acting like a wild person based on the weather that we've got here in New York. We do have some questions from you guys who have been following along. This one's from Smarty Pants. Question: could the prosecutors have charged Diddy with a separate kidnapping, forced labor charges, and gun charges in addition to RICO? To which I asked Serena Townsend, former sex crimes prosecutor, what do you think?
Strategically, they probably decided not to, because it makes more sense for them to seek out this bigger RICO charge, which has more serious consequences and higher amounts of prison time. They could have, But, think about what forum we're in right now. What you're identifying, and you're not wrong, smarty pants, you are very smart. You're kind of identifying what it would look like in a state prosecution. That's usually what you would see on like a lower level, although those counts also carry a high amount of prison time at the state level. But usually when the feds get involved, they usually try to seek out those counts where only the feds could charge. And so in their minds, they're looking at RICO, they want the big sexy crime rather than like the state typical crimes that you're thinking about.
I like what you said, the big sexy crime of RICO. And maybe it's perhaps because RICO is so mysterious. There are so many things that go into it. I mean, there are the predicate counts, there are the allegations. There's so much happening there. And I guess this kind of leads into my next question, Mauricio. I talked to you a lot today about this alleged domestic violence situation. And I guess I say alleged, but P. Diddy's team, right in opening, said, yes, this was domestic violence. So I guess hand up, they did say that. The video I'm, of course, talking about is the Intercontinental video with P. Diddy and Cassie in LA. We've all seen it. It was originally leaked to CNN. And a lot of people I have asked me the question, okay, why wasn't Diddy charged with domestic violence? A lot of people are wondering about that. What do you think, Mauricio? Why wasn't that a charge in all of this?
Well, because they're charging him with RICO, like she said, it's like the big sexy crime, and they don't want to, at the end of the day, what he did in that crime could have been a misdemeanor if she didn't go to the hospital. It's just a domestic violence charge. I don't think that the federal prosecutors are going to charge a crime like that. They're going to use it to satisfy the force, fraud, or coercion of sex trafficking. Because at the end of the day, the amount of time he's looking at on the sex trafficking is gonna shadow whatever time you'll be looking at regarding a misdemeanor domestic violence case. So I don't see them charging that, but they are going to use it over and over again. Now the defense is going to do something that we talk about a lot in death penalty litigation, which is called run to the bummer. That means like whatever's negative, bring it up first. So I anticipate you're going to see his defense counsel stand up and immediately fall on the sword and talk about the video and talk about the domestic violence and tell him, yeah, my client may not, be the greatest person, and my client may have had a problem, and my client may have committed an act of domestic violence, but my client did not commit RICO. My client is at the head of a criminal organization. And I think that's where he's going to start highlighting the differences between this case and what jurors are used to seeing or hearing about when they think about a RICO case. Mafia, organized crime, that's the type of thing that they're looking at. So I think that the defense is going to go back and show the distinctions between what the jury probably expects to see from a RICO case and what this case is about.
So he gave great information. Okay, I've been live for almost an hour 10. Please continue to hit the like button, you guys. Please hit the like button. Just double tap the screen. If you already hit the like, thank you. If you already subscribed, thank you. Let's get the likes up, please. Let's get the likes up, please, and thank you. Let me see if there was anything else. Hold on one second. Like the video, like the video. Let's continue to get the likes up, and don't forget to subscribe, you guys. Okay. This is from Inner City Press this morning. Yeah, I'm going to play this last clip so you guys can hear what happened in him going into court.
District of New York Courthouse. Today, Thursday, June 26th, day 31 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial and its closing arguments.
Thank you, Paris.
Yesterday, the defense arguments will be on Friday, and the jury will get the case Monday. We'll see whether they can rule by the July 4th holiday. But yesterday there was turmoil. After we did this, many people seem to not misunderstand. I blame the prosecutors, actually. The way that they wrote their letter about the charge before the charging conference, they said we are not pursuing the theories of liability of attempted kidnapping under New York and California law, attempted arson under California law, that's the Kid Cudi car. The New York kidnapping is Capricorn Clark, of course, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. So this was not dropping charges, but some people, particularly those some are saying free Diddy, so they were like, Diddy's getting free. I mean, I'm not putting him, again, government should have explained it better. I think that they spent some sort of behind-the-scenes attempts to sort of explain to people, but they should have just written a better, I don't know, maybe they hadn't realized how it would be perceived. But I'll say that we didn't try to spin it one way or another. We just quoted exactly what I said. We are not pursuing those theories of liability. Of course, these are just predicates to the RICO charge, and as the almost non-ending charge conference yesterday went till 7:30 p.m., made clear RICO is alive. They're going for RICO. There's 5 counts. And so that's that. Now, before we get in, because today it's going to start at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., begins the opening arguments, apparently by AUSA Slavic. Mark Agnifilo won the right to wait until Friday to start. Whether that's cutting it too close to the holiday, we'll just have to see. Judge Subramanian seemed satisfied that the defense was sort of waiving its rights to, I guess, not deliberate on July 3rd. I'm not sure what they're waiving, really. But what we can say is other things are happening in the world. They really are. Yesterday at 10:30, because it didn't start, as it turned out, until 3:45, the charge conference, we went to cover U.S. versus Do Kwon. a major crypto case involving the collapse of the Luna stablecoin. And as we reported, and as other crypto publications have picked up, Judge Engelmeyer said, I take note of the Genius Act. This, of course, is passed through one house of Congress, hasn't yet been finalized, but it's about stablecoin. It is on point. How it affects the litigation? Unclear. Some filings are due. Now, speaking of crypto, Eric Adams, his chance is suddenly revitalized by Mamdani's primary win. More on that anon. He's going to appear today. How is he self?
Okay, everyone. Okay, so we got everything straightened out. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And see, that's the biggest thing, too. I have to be careful what I report. The people that should have been anonymous, I thank goodness I was able to make them anonymous. There's a lot going on, misinformation. That's why we get it from the news. These are actual journalists that are sitting in the courtroom. They're not expected to do clickbait. So we have to be careful what we hear. Let's say Monday and Tuesday are going to be very important days. It's a lot of information to obtain and retain in your brain. That's why I listen to certain news media, because they've been able to break down certain stuff that the normal person can understand. A lot of normal stuff that a normal person can understand. And then I go back and I listen to legal pages that talk about stuff. I can understand what the legal pages stuff is talking about. But if we have to sit there and listen to them, sometimes it's confusing for people, but I get it. I get it. And then I say, okay, that's why the news is saying that. So I have to kind of listen to the legal pages for 10 or 15 minutes. And then I go to the news and they give a general breakdown. So you have legal people that's dealt with federal cases. You have the media and publishing and publicists and reporters that's dealt with this type of stuff in regards to what people want to hear and not hear. That's the biggest thing. They're trying to make it easy as possible for the jurors, because the jurors may be of older age, maybe not of a younger age. That's what I was going to say yesterday, Paris, but I pulled it back. They may be of people of a certain age. Sometimes people don't retain information the way they need to retain it. I think the judge is trying to do a great job in making sure the jury has everything they need to understand what's happening, the evidence that's presented, getting them the transcripts. They're going to get all the information possible, the messages. Yeah, so he's doing everything he can. I'm sure this judge is over it. He wants this to be done by Monday, Tuesday, period. Now, will it be done? We don't know. But it has been a circus. A lot of distractions. Everyday people saying, well, why don't they have the prints for what happened to Kid Cudi? Why don't, and I said the same thing. Why don't we have cameras? Why don't we show pictures of the firefighters putting the fire out? Yeah, very disappointing of what has been presented, because we're thinking it's going to be more of what the raid was about. All that stuff y'all got from his house, 2 houses. And then, remember, his son came out and did a song saying y'all missed the crib. And then allegedly, remember when there's alleged, and see, we can't confirm or deny if that was AI, but go back. Remember how the son wrote that song, and then remember he told the son allegedly from a jail call, hello, get rid of the pizza boxes. What's the pizza boxes? Was that the NDAs attaching these people to these events and times? So there was a lot of questions we had. Now, mind you, the jurors had probably already heard about the civil lawsuits. So we're going to see what happens. Will the jury, when they start doing their interviews, will at any point they say they were confused about anything? I was kind of confused. I really didn't know. I didn't understand. And then will they say, the jurors, then will they say there was a lot of, what's the word? Objections. So you hear it, but then they object. So there was a lot of that. And that can be concerning to the jurors as well, because the jurors may say, well, I remember that's being said to me, but then they objected and they had to rephrase it. So the jurors have a lot. This is a lot of information to retain. Well wishes to those jurors. Real talk. Real talk. And then the jurors are going to find out what was the rewrite in regards to the car and in regards to the kidnapping. They're going to come in and probably think, okay, we heard about what Kid Cudi had to do. Mind you, Kid Cudi was one celebrity that did pop up and pop in. Now, Michael B. Jordan did not. Why didn't Michael B. Jordan? Hey, I like Cassie. We only went on a few dates. He dated other people. And I'm not going to say that name because I don't want my video to be taken down right now. He dated other people outside of Cassie. We've seen him. There's a person that went MIA. Why didn't they cover that? Oh, we're trying to speak with her lawyer. Oh, the lawyer's not even calling us back. Because that other girlfriend would have been a very, very similar case to Cassie. Yeah, that situation. And that's the last we heard of it. She's just MIA. Maybe what? Collecting a bag? Is she saying, how dare you give Cassie XYZ? And that could have been it too, Paris. Clock this T. You gave Cassie XYZ. I dated you around that same time. You gave her how much? You don't want me to take that stand? You better give me something similar. That could have been that too. And maybe that's why we didn't see her. He dated those two women around the same time. You gave her that much. You don't want me to hit that stand. You need to give me XYZ. How do we not know? She got a payout. Because why didn't the courts address? She has to show up. If you've been summoned to show up, you can't just go MIA. That in itself, they covered it for what, a day or two, and then they left it. How can you just go MIA? Where's his bodyguards? Real talk. Okay, you got the assistants. They're assisting in what's happening. But what about the bodyguards? What about the drivers? You're driving him to some of these locations, some of the situations. What did you hear? What did you understand? Guess what? Think about it. The drivers in the car with him, hearing him on the phone with people sometimes, y'all. No driver took the stand. Okay, ask the assistants. What was the conversations that you overheard? What were some of the conversations you overheard in regards to his business dealings? Where's his business partners? Why is he over there? Why is he over there by himself? Nobody's sitting next to him. So when we're hearing about the RICO, we're hearing things about and thinking about the Young Thug. All those people that took stands, this is an organization. They did music. You know, this is what happened. That's what happened. So, baby, Monday, Tuesday, so important. Whatever the verdict is, so important. What happens after the verdict, so important. And that's the biggest thing. I'm hearing, and that's the other thing too. People wanted his financial advisors outed. They did. They did. And then to protect certain names. We heard about Michael B. We heard about the people she dated. But they tried to protect that one rapper. When Jane Doe went to an FO or whatever, she went and they tried to protect that rapper. Why? Were you worried about being sued? Or is another looting case that's happening? You know, when we heard about the charges, everybody's like, forget the baby oil. You had boxes and boxes of stuff and papers. What about his phones? What about his business dealings? Baby, they should have had me working for them. Real talk. Because if Cassie's lawsuit showed one thing and homegirl says it was a different location, there's no way that would have got by me. They should have made sure, the attorneys, let's check on Google and find out where he was on that day. He was somewhere else. He couldn't be in two places at once. What's getting me is regards to them raiding the home, 2 homes, and then his son sings a song, y'all missed the crib. Why did y'all miss a house? How and why did y'all miss a house that was allegedly next door to one of the houses you raided? Allege. Why did you not go into the basement? Huh? Real talk, side-eyeing a lot of stuff. That's just what I do. And debunk stuff. That's just what I do. But here nor there, we're going to see what the jury decides. And then it's going to be interesting to hear their interviews. And will they write a book? And yeah, the jurors saying, at first I was writing notes daily. And then stuff became repetitive. So then some of the people started probably saying, okay, Mia, there, attended, assisted, then said no. Certain stuff was so repetitive. And they were sick of those messages. Cassie kept the phone too. Yeah, all this. Oh yeah, that's what's really tripping me out. It did not go how a lot of us felt it should have go, and we're day-to-day people. So even if the reporter, remember this yesterday, Paris? The reporter says she was even confused in the courtroom. A reporter. The confusion, the distraction, and some of those jurors, in regards to so many objections, that in itself is going to be concerning. Because if you object to it and you're not even fully able to answer the question, well, what did you see? What did you feel? Okay, you allegedly stated he grabbed you, touched you, inserted. I'm going to be general. Inserted. Why didn't you go to the hospital? Well, he kept me too busy to go to the hospital. You know, that's what we needed. We didn't get a lot of that. Certain questions, because you got to remember, when I'm done, I sometimes listen to what's happening in the courtroom. And I got headphones on. I'm sitting here laying, chilling. I'm doing business stuff on the side. Certain stuff, some of the questions wasn't even fully asked of what time, who was there, who was near. Certain stuff wasn't asked. And even when I listen to certain pages, because there's some, you know, I have favorites and I already named them. Even when some of the people are sitting there taking notes, they say, yeah, they didn't reiterate, they didn't finalize that question, and it just left an area of something that could have been fulfilled in answering that question properly. You're not going to get me on the stand and just ask me to do yes or no. I can't do that. I'm just not going to take the stand. For me, I'm a talker. Got to elaborate. Real talk. Got to elaborate. Some of those people that were taking the stands could not elaborate for a reason. And the objections, baby. If one thing we're going to hear from the jurors, a lot of objections, a lot of sidebar, a lot of confusion, why that other celebrity could not be named. We can't confirm or deny if that celebrity was a celebrity, you understand? But I'm also hearing, and I'll make this clear, I'm also allegedly hearing certain celebrities might have been on a list to testify. That might be why Kanye allegedly was the only one that popped up and showed up. And he was only there for 10 minutes, and people were trying to find him. Baby, those reporters were trying to get a picture. They were trying to find him. He only stayed for a few minutes. And then people thought he was going to show up the next day. Kanye's too, I'm here, I'm gone. You could tell his personality is not, you know, he even said in regards to contracts, he don't like a lot of papers. Even when you open a bank account, they give you about 15, 20, 30 pages. Kanye's mindset is not long-term, you gonna bore me to death. He probably was thinking about music, and then he left. He left after 20, 30 minutes. After 10 is what some people are reporting. So, was Kanye there for his own media attention, clicks and views? Was Kanye there because he said that Diddy's team was seeking a mistrial? Was he thinking his boy about to get out? That's good if Kanye's helping his children. That's good. I think I saw something that the girls might have showed up. Finally, the girls were there week 1. I don't know if they were there to week 2. But, yeah, praying for his children. This is a lot. He's lived. He's lived. His children are still young, outside of Quincy. But I think Quincy does a great job trying to fly with under the radar. We don't even hear who Quincy's dating. We hear about who's Justin's dating, who Christian has dated, but we don't even really hear who Quincy's dating. You know, he's helping those twins. Real talk. Yeah, it's a lot, but I try and break it down the best way I can because there's a lot of pages that doing clickbait, and there's a lot of pages that's lying about stuff. It's like, that's not true. I watched a video of somebody mixing up the mother and one of the baby mamas. And if you're not really paying attention, it's like that didn't happen. You know? So I hope y'all appreciate it. I do appreciate y'all. Let's do a little bit of hot topics, trending topics, real talk. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez is getting married. And what I'm seeing right now is interesting. The K's and the J's are almost letting and wanting pages to cover them. I told y'all, the K's and the J's. Some of these reports are showing a lot of pictures of the K's and the J's. They're showing more pictures of the K's and the J's than Lauren and Jeff. I told y'all that was going to happen. Because sometimes the K's and the J's allegedly look to these pages to push out stuff. Poor Lauren. She shouldn't have invited them. And right now we're seeing Kim, we're seeing Chloe, and we're seeing the mom. I don't know if Kylie went. I don't know if Kendall went. But a lot of times Kim like it to be just her and her mom and not Chloe. And then allegedly, oh, this is a trip too. Katy Perry broke up with that one guy. What's his name? Let me tell y'all something. Let me go back. I have it. Katy Perry broke up with what's his name? Orlando Bloom? Hold up. I'm gonna pull it. I got it. Okay. Orlando Bloom has a friendly reunion with Kim Kardashian in his first outing since breaking up with Katy Perry. They're pushing that narrative. It's so sad. Orlando Bloom should not even be in a picture next to Kim. Kim wants to trend so bad. She popping up with other men that broke up with her friends. Yeah, there's a picture. Go to Us Weekly. Orlando Bloom has a friendly reunion. Why is his friendly reunion with Katy Perry? Katy Perry is at the wedding. Kim is so thirsty to be next to a guy, she will post up with somebody else's boyfriend. I told y'all, it's the season of Kylie and Kendall dating. Right now, Kim and Chloe may be having a hard time finding somebody because after dudes break up with Kim, she liked to keep them in the media for almost a month or two. They could have moved on and dated somebody else. Now this girl is trying to be like Orlando Bloom because he's well known. Orlando Bloom is not problematic. So I would imagine Orlando's team is probably mad. Why would you want to be posted up with somebody else's man? Like you reuniting with her. He ain't got nothing to do with her. And remember that Tom Brady stuff? When she was trying to connect herself to Tom Brady? Tom Brady said, oh no, I'm going through divorce. I'm not dating her. I don't want nothing to do with that situation. It's the team. The K's and the J's love to trend and go viral. Why isn't anybody telling them sit down for a month? Take a break. You look desperate. You look needy. And then there was a post I posted, either it was this week, last week. Kim said she's frustrated of Bianca dressing similar to her. We see what Bianca be wearing. She should be in the house wearing that. She shouldn't be outside. Those kids don't need to see what Bianca be wearing. But then Kim got a weird post with her mama in some blonde wig. So they wanted to trend over Lauren Sanchez's wedding. Because this is the other thing. Them K's and J's, they crafty. Kim promoted something. I never promote their stuff. Kim posted something. So she's going to this wedding and she wants people to talk about her. Oh, I saw your post. Oh, I saw you and your mom. You did something together. She did that this week. Just so people can talk to her about, oh, I saw your post. She did that this week. It's different if she did it last month. She did it this week. Them K's and the J's. The mother loves to keep them busy. The mama can be in a relationship for 8 or 9, 10 years. She expects these girls to date. And how they treat Chloe is deplorable. And Chloe just like, okay, let me flow with it. For them to keep Chloe stuck in that situation with Tristan. And Tristan made it very clear he wanted to date and be with other people. No matter how many times Chloe changed her hair, Tristan was still out there having a good old time. Going to a restaurant, holding hands, on a boat, kissing 2 different girls. So now men are seeing and struggling. So, baby. Certain words. Yep, I appreciate everybody though. But yeah, Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos is getting married. And when you go on to the pictures, even TMZ is putting the K's and the J's, and it's the K's and the J's talking to Orlando. Her people are getting the shots. They weird. Stop playing with me. They weird. They like their camera people to be right there taking pictures of everything. And then they like to wear alleged inappropriate outfits to a wedding. This is the other thing I'm going to say. That's why Kanye's so mad. Did y'all see the picture what she posted? Real talk. Frustrated. And I'm not posting the child. Did y'all see the picture she posted of one of the daughters that just had a birthday? She put her in that hair, that outfit, and then 2 or 3 days she changed that girl's outfit. Kim did that on purpose. She did, as she's in a decent outfit, she put a post up of her daughter, and her daughter did not look that great. And people are going in on. There's a difference between Beyonce and their kids, and there's a difference between Kim. Yeah, she posted, and I told y'all, she does not make the children look that great, especially North. That's why Kanye's so mad. Go back, I don't watch the show that much, but things I've seen, she don't make North look good. And I've talked about it. She don't make North look good, and that's sad. As a mother, you should be protecting your daughter. Putting her in that outfit and that lace wig, she knew what she was doing. While she's looking grand and OCO, she put her child in that outfit. The outfit looked like it came from a Goodwill store. Kim knows what she's doing, and it's sad. I catch it. I see it. Because people probably don't realize. I've seen stuff. Posting on the show, North eating an onion. Posting on the show, North trying to grab Chloe's alcohol glass. Posting that her child slapped some of their friends in the face. She don't make her look good, and that's the sad thing. They like to utilize, I told y'all this 3 years ago, they like to utilize their children for media now. And then Rob was posted up in a picture with Kim, Lala, and yeah, it was Kim, Lala, and Rob. She loved posting that. Rob don't want to have to deal with that. They try and use Rob as much as they can, at least 2-3 times a year. Rob don't want to go back on that show because see what happened. And see, Rob used to call them out. They wanted Rob out. Yeah. So don't be surprised. Lauren and Jeff are getting married. Don't be surprised you see a lot of pictures of the K's and the J's. More pictures than Lauren. If this is Lauren's wedding, alleged. This is Lauren's wedding. If there's 10 pictures, Kim's going to want 4 or 5 of them, and a few pictures of Lauren and other guests. I told y'all that. Poor Lauren. You should have kept them away from their wedding, but you didn't. And they're not dumb. They wanted to connect themselves to a really, really, really rich man and woman. They weren't thinking about no Lauren Sanchez until she got with Jeff Bezos. But it is what it is. So now they're flipping the narrative that Kim and Chloe standing there talking to Orlando Bloom. He just broke up with Katy Perry. They're going to create certain narratives so they can trend and go viral over the next 4 or 5 days. Watch. And TMZ helps, and so do other pages. So well wishes, Lauren. Don't know if you should have invited them. There's another picture. Page 6 is talking about Kim talking to Orlando Bloom. TMZ is talking about Kim being by Orlando Bloom. US Weekly is talking about Kim talking to Orlando Bloom as her team takes the picture. It's ridiculous. Isn't Katie your friend? But then you want to be spotted with him so you can get a click and a view. Oprah showed up. They're showing Oprah. They're showing the mama. But yeah, they say certain things about the mom. And now she want to talk about Rob, that she posted the picture. She wants to trend over Lauren. Yes, she does. And she wants to trend over Beyonce. Yeah. So, okay, everyone, I stayed another 20 minutes longer than I wanted. But yeah. If I get a chance, I was up early. I posted shorts this morning. And now people's talking about it. She wants that to trend. She's standing there talking to Orlando Bloom. That's some dirty work. And then the mama posting about her and Kim. Yep. Lauren, you invited them. So now Lauren's got to deal with, they're going to want to trend over Lauren and her special wedding. I'll try and post some pictures of Lauren and Jeff Bezos when I can. Yes. Like the video, like the video. I hope everyone has subscribed. Oh, you guys, we're almost at 91 likes. We have 98 in the building. Can I get 10 more people to hit the like button, please? We're at 91 likes. If I can please get 20 more people to hit the like. Double tap the screen, please. Double tap the screen to hit the like. Thank you. 92. Let's go. We're almost at 100 likes. We should be at 300. This video is probably going to have 3 to 4,000 views. Let's get the likes up. Thank you. We're at 92. Please hit the like. 94. Thank you. Thank you. Please hit the like. 94. Please hit the like. So I hope I covered enough so you guys have an understanding that they did what they did to try and make things easier for the jury. 96 likes. Let's go. Thank you. Double tap that screen, y'all. Hit the thumbs up, y'all. DDG is granted visitation rights with the son. Yep. Did y'all see that outfit? Hello, everyone. Thank you. 98 likes. Did y'all see that outfit that Kanye put his wife in? She got a candy bathing suit on. She's in a summer bathing suit and he in winter clothes. Where they do that at? 99 likes. Continue to hit the like, you guys, and thank you. 99. We're almost there at 100. So there's going to be a lot of celebrities that's going to show up. Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom split after nearly 10 years together. That's a long time. So Kim want to take somebody else's man and trend. We hit 100 likes. That's what's up. Yeah. Were they married, Katy Perry? And yeah, they split after 10 years together. Were they married? I can't remember. Were they married or dating? Call it quits after 10 years together. And then it's everything you need to know from page 6. We hit 100 likes, you guys. Thank you. And yeah, Kanye and his girl. How he dresses her is so interesting. So it's basically saying, Paris, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom end the engagement. And they break up after 9 or 10 years. Yep, so they were engaged. That's interesting. Sometimes, I think they have a child together. Don't quote me on that. Take that with a grain of salt. I think they have a child together. Yep. Yeah, well wishes to Kanye. Be careful who you marry and date, you guys. Be careful who you have children by. Real talk. Okay, you guys, we've hit 101 likes. I thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm exhausted. I've been up since 6. I had appointments. I had a lot to take care of today, but good thing I've taken care of it. I only got 3 calls to make, and I get to relax the rest of the day. Important stuff. So I definitely have to get off this phone, off the live, and take care of some stuff. Yeah, Kim is trying to trend about a lot of stuff. I'm not going to promote none of her stuff. And then they talk about Kylie in regards to some of her products. They're allegedly cheaply made. I don't know. Kylie wants to trend in regards to Selena Gomez. I'm not a big fan of Kylie either. Go back and look at what Kylie gave Jordan as a cake. Go back and look at Kylie did brown face. Go back and look at Kylie wore an interesting necklace. Go back. Tyga, no. And she dated Tyga at what age? And then go back and look at an old costume that Chloe gave people. Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, and Kelsey's life is forever changed going to that party. Period. If you guys did not know, I'm just doing hot topics, trending topics. If you did not know, Portia's ex-husband, Simon Guobadia, is basically saying that he regrets marrying Portia. Yeah, you guys have a great day. Appreciate you. Yeah, Kim wants to trend. She's trying to trend about a few different things. But okay, you guys, focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is used permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. If I go live, I got to get some rest, got to make these calls. If I go live, it'll be 4, 5, or 6, or 7 tonight, if I have to go live, if something is trending. But I appreciate you. Thanks, Paris, for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel, you guys. Be kind. Be around people that love and support you. Goodbye. Be blessed.